All right. Welcome to Inside the Grind podcast, the podcast for people building real coffee shops. Every episode, we sit down with someone who's deep in the day to day, hiring, fixing, worrying, making hard choices, and still showing up to serve. These are honest stories from founders in the thick of it. No fluff, no ego, just the real grind and what's getting them through. If you're building something on your blog, this one's for you. Brought to you by Coffee Futures Fund. All right. Jared Truby in the house. This is Inside the Grind podcast by Coffee Futures Fund. And Jared, truly excited and blessed to have you in the room today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's exciting. We just released our Letters to Young Coffee Owners essay today. This is first of the series that we are starting, and it was truly an honor to cover your story, and really hear from you, the person behind the scenes. I think everybody knows you in the industry, and you are one of those shining stars for more than a decade in the industry. But it was really inspiring to hear your voice firsthand in terms of what has really gone behind creating the persona that Jared Truby is today as a leader of Cat and Cloud Coffee. In your eyes, as you sit today, sharing your experience and living the life the way you are living, what do you have to say about Jared Truby, the leader of Cat and Cloud?
Wow. Well, first, thank you for taking the time and doing the essay in general. It was an honor, and you did a great job. So, I mean, it's all real and it's all very true. But that was definitely the work. It was our work together. So, thanks for that. Myself as a leader today, you know, I would say that the thing that stands true consistently from the beginning till now is there's authenticity and finding the soul of what you are trying to deliver is important. The thing that I believe that I do as a leader and I try to help everybody see is that human connection is the ultimate opportunity in whatever we are doing. And there is something to be said about that because people are what make this business special. Yes, we serve a thing called coffee that is absolutely amazing. Without farmers, without all these people in connection and lockstep, we have nothing. And so I try to keep bringing that back to the people that I used to be, the person I used to be. I used to not feel like I was valuable. I used to not feel like, as a human being, I felt like a number at work. I felt like a person who filled a slot so that the boss could be this thing. And that's just not how I feel about what work should be. So the leader and myself tries to find a connective through line to paint a picture of, hey, you could be a brand new concierge. That's what we call a reg op, an intro level person moving into becoming a barista. You may have very little skill set, but that has nothing to do with your value as a person and what you can offer. So to me, when you can bring people together, leadership is bringing people together under a common purpose. That is a huge part of what this is. And people need to feel connected. There's human needs. I've spoken about it with you. I speak about it all the time. These things can be built into our works and our lives. So I've always been intentional. I always want a through line, and I always want a why. And that is something that I would like to work towards and continue to help other people see that is totally possible. And it doesn't have to be like someone else. It doesn't have to be that authenticity is so important. That's the thing I want to like really rein home. People feel authenticity. I think we feel like we need to follow some sort of trend and or direction. And aside from the basic metrics of business, I need to make money. You can go your own way as long as you understand what you're getting into. So I like to paint that picture. I like to lead people there and I like to inspire them. I'd say I'm more of an autonomic, I think is the word, the term for the kind of leader who teaches, helps, and then I want you to kind of be independent and explore your own way. I want you to explore into these principles and develop, and I'll continue to develop you and point you in a direction. And hey, you're not expressing that. You are expressing that. We mean to do this and it's coming off like X, Y, and Z. But that is how I like to lead people and to let them really take stabs at things and express their creativity because the sum of everybody's parts usually is the best expression as long as we have a clear direction forward.
Jared, you talked about authenticity and human connection, that being the through line, that being the tenet of the foundational values of your leadership. And I can't hold myself, but just go back to the essay, Letters to Young Coffee Owners, and something uh, that you shared. in detail with us was about your Disneyland trip, right? Because when it comes to authenticity, like you said, is about being true to yourself, and expressing that in real life with other people around you. And that can only happen when you have lived through those experiences. Only then you can share those experiences. And for you, your Disneyland trip when you were 12 years old was that one of those big defining moments. So, what do you remember about that trip today?
Yeah, I mean, I remember a lot of things very clearly. I remember my family always talked about how poor we were. So that was part of this trip going into it. It was like, we're going to have to pack food, this, that, and the other, right? There's this whole stress around that. And then I remember looking out the window, memorizing the map prior to even like of our hotel room, memorizing the map, looking and seeing Disneyland way over there. And we're going to walk over there. I had the map memorized. And I remember feeling all this anticipation and excitement. And then I felt the shift in my entire family when I got in there and we started turning off the stresses of the outside world, and all of those things melted away and we started having fun together. And I'm like, what is happening? Because I'm 12, but I know I'm excited, but I also know I'm like, whoa, my parents are having fun, just having fun. There's this whole different energy going on, and that stuck with me. Just that alone, I was like, whoa, this is what it feels like to have a happy family and enjoy life together. And so it's a poignant moment because I don't know what that is at the time. When I'm young, I'm just like, oh, that's just Disneyland. And so, as you may have read in the essay and have heard, I find out that there is something really beautiful there, and it's that Disneyland's trying to create connection. They're trying to make these magical moments, and they're trying to access happiness, the happiest place on earth, quote unquote. And there's a side of the world that's like, oh, that's so fake, and there's a side of the world that's like, oh, I think it's pretty healthy for people to let go of all of the stresses and fears and things that are going on in the world and really have a moment of centered focus with the people that you love. And so, is there not a higher calling than to put that into anything that we do in our work? Can we create something that is so connective, so immersive in its own right that whatever that is, you forget about everything else and you're wholeheartedly just here? Wherever that here is. And that is absolutely attainable in anything that we do at any job. But when we have a space like a cafe, it's really totally doable. And it goes back to my leadership style. How can you build connective moments where people can be here and here alone and they get to forget everything else for a little bit and just enjoy a coffee, a smile, a high five, a joke, whatever that is to you? Tell me there's no higher calling than that, especially in a world right now that only has like we're pitch stress, where we see stress on every social media. We see conflict more often than positivity. And it's just the human brain is also wired to remember all the negative versus the positive. So it's like you need 10 positive things for every one negative thing in terms of weight, give or take. And that's a huge deal. So be the kind of company that creates that positivity, that connection every single day in an authentic way. That was Disneyland for me.
That because and you brought Disneyland with you in today's world with Cat and Cloud and into our lives. So, but that's not easy at all, right? Because there's one thing to talk about creating experiences, creating those emotional values, but when you're running a business, it's really difficult to bring that into practice, right? I've seen so many people having same values, sharing same values, and it's a really difficult job every single day that you try to establish this as a practice, as a authentic connection in your cafe. It's really difficult. So, and I know that you talk about five senses test as one of your ways to do that. So, tell me more about the practical side of it. How do you design joy in the daily life of Cat and Cloud?
Yeah. I mean, to have a clear mission and values. Our mission is to inspire connection by creating memorable experiences. And we have 5 values to support that. Many of them related to, our craft and some of the things that we do. And there's some specificity there that kind of gives people a playing ground, a playing field. I think that's important because then you can look to interview in such a way that you hire people who genuinely want to do this kind of work. There's people like it's true. Everybody wants to win an interview if they want a job. It's not always true that people really enjoy hospitality and the craft of coffee. There's oftentimes somebody who wants to be a coffee nerd, which doesn't necessarily translate always to hospitality. There's people who want to do hospitality but don't care at all about tasting coffee. So there is an intention to building that, right? Establish some ground rules. I'm calling that for now. Ground rules meaning your mission and values, why we're here, what it is. But to design that joy after that, you kind of have to lead with it. Lead with being able to have fun while taking something serious. And that to me, I'd say is uh, the thing I hate most about the world is that in order to be professional, you have to be serious. You know, unless you're a comedian or an actor and maybe a musician, things like that fit into art kind of specifically. But if you want to be a professional and you want to be a business person, you better button up and be like on top of things or else nobody's going to listen to you or take you seriously. And I carry that from being a kid with ADHD who just couldn't do life in school in the way that made sense. And I lean into building places that lean on fun. I mean, we staff more than we need to, a little bit more than we need to, more than we should for the specific metrics in order to deliver a better experience for people. You build in these things that allow people to engage. And as a leader, you have to keep pointing back to them. Hey, did you see what you did today? Did you see that the person who came in today? Do you know? I know because I've been serving this person for 10 to 20 years. Did you know that this is the only human interaction they're getting today besides work because they go home alone and that you are the best part of their day? They tell me all the time, I think you should notice that that's a huge deal and that this energy that we create is exponentially growing when we treat people away and they feel that joy, they go out and it kind of exponents, it exponentially grows. And I just, again, like coming from a life where it was always stressful and I didn't ever feel, I more often than not felt alone. That is what a cafe is a place for you to not feel alone. And when people don't feel alone, I just believe that they'll be happier. You don't feel alone? Great. You're going to feel connected. You're going to feel a little safer. You're going to feel engaged. And so I'm kind of working in many different things, but we have established rules, we have mission, we have values. And then the work of the leader always and forever is to point out how this connects to real life, how this connects to the people coming through the door, how this connects to something that is not a number. And I agree with you. I think that's the challenge that a lot of business owners have is they try to find A plus B equals C metric for joy, for human connection, for things that maybe cost more that I think are exponentially, they're like multipliers, but you can't always show them to an accountant or a bank. And I think that's really challenging and maybe intimidating for people who are younger in business, just because the person who knows money is going to tell you that you're wrong. And that's not like, that's not the right thing. And you're like, it just feels like if I treat people better, they're going to stay longer. And if they stay longer, then I won't have to pay so much in training over and over and over again. And how much is that time worth? And you can see all these things adding up that are hidden costs that an accountant or somebody might say. Mm-mm. So we build that from the beginning. There's an orientation. You're a part of something. We're trying to make something. We've done what we've done thus far. Our mission is this. Our values is this. We're going in this direction. We want to make an impact on the world and you're absolutely a part of it. And I, as the owner, I'm out here working on things that will help your experience be better all the time, even though I'm not next to you making coffee anymore. But in order for something new to take place and take shape here to improve your experience, it's going to take me 2 to 5 months sometimes to come up with a concept or like a new menu. Like I'll give you like a really easy example. We reworked the menu so that everybody can get more information before they get to the register. They can see it from anywhere in the cafe. And some people will be like, why'd you spend X couple $1,000s on a menu? And I'm like, well, anybody who walks into our cafe and they're at the back of a line, they then can turn around, they figure out what they need. And by the time they get to the front of the line, they don't have to ask any questions. That's the simplest thing. The other side of that, though, is they feel less stressed. The person at the register can talk to them more quickly. We can get to the heart of what they need. All these things add up to maybe a savings of 20 to 50 seconds, but the psychological connection of the mom at the back who didn't know what they could order, who gets to the front and is like just kind of feeling icky because they have to ask questions while their kids are talking to them. And it's like, get a menu. And that problem actually could theoretically go away if you give them the right connections. So that part is really, really cool to me. And that's something that we work on. Just what are these things that can go so far that maybe you wouldn't consider? It's just a menu, right? Is it? And that's I guess who I am also as a business owner and a leader is I look at those things and I say, how does it connect to the human experience? Looking through the guest eyes, what will it feel like if I stand in my cafe and do these things? So that's my life a lot of the time.
So, you have been talking about the role of a leader, right? And how you bring those values down to simple but strategic decisions that really have a long lasting impact on the business. And the menu creation and was a great example to that. Tell me about the other piece, which you alluded to slightly about people, because as you grow, and we have a lot of emerging coffee shop owners listening today who are possibly running 1 person, 2 person, 3 person team today, right? And until that point, I believe it's still the owner's values that directly translate to the experience in the cafe. But
Hmm.
when you grow, when you have a larger team, it is through people that you share that experience to your patrons, to your customers. Talk to me about your people policies, strategies. How do you coach them? How do you train them so that they
Yeah.
can also share the same value as you?
Yeah, I mean, again, an orientation and being able to actually verbalize and document what you're trying to do. What are you trying to what are your mission, what are your values, and what are the actions that relate to those things? Because when you're the owner, you're right, you're there. You live it. People are standing beside you. I call it tribal knowledge. People maybe have heard that or not, but tribal knowledge meaning like we're all together all the time. I'm clearly the leader. I started this thing, so everybody's going to follow my lead. Whatever I say, they kind of end up, it's like a little bit monkey see, monkey do, because that's the human nature. It's like, I hear you say it like this. It's going to be said like this. I'm repeating it. I'm making it. I'm doing it like that. Totally. If you want to continue to grow, and I think you kind of have to look at growth if you want to ever have freedom to do anything other than work at your shop, right? You need to find a way to replicate what you believe in other people. So the best part is when you are in those close proximities, you can talk to people about what these things are and what they mean. But in order to have those people take it to the next level, right, you need to essentially train them. You need to establish some sort of future that gives them incentive to be with you or with the company long enough for something to happen. And I say something to happen because I want you to choose your own adventure here. And I don't want to say that anything's right or wrong. There's a beautiful concept around being a 1 to 5 person team. A lot of companies in Australia and New Zealand and places like that, they run with six team members total, and they love it. It's a different world over there and different business models than California, the United States, but still could work for somebody here if that's their passion. I do believe over time you're going to want to potentially provide more, take some time off. In order to take some time off, you don't want your business to fall apart. And this is, I think, what we're talking about is teaching other people what are the most valuable things. Again, you need to have a clarity around these are the main things that I think are the most connective, beautiful, special things that I want to do in this cafe. And assuming that you've picked something that resonates and people are coming to and speaking back to guests, right? They have to give you some sort of feedback. If whatever you're doing is not landing, you need to rework it. I think we talk about that in the essay a little bit, but you need to be able to articulate these things and say, "Hey, I would like to grow this to a place. I need people to support me. Here's what we're doing. Here's what I believe it matters. I'd love to see you be a part of this." You have to lean into people and you have to trust them and paint a picture. Here's what we do. Make sure that these things are happening at 95%. And yes, there's a million other things, but hit these things first. I have like a list of five or six that are like our retail focuses, and do these first. The list might be 20 things long, but these things are what everybody sees and feels and needs to see and feel every time for us to be us. Lean into that, and I guarantee you, you're going to have your best days, and we'll support you, and everything else will continue to develop you. But that is it. There's got to be some sort of growth opportunity for somebody other than you as an owner, or else it's not that it won't be successful. It's just it will all rely on you. And being the only person as a linchpin for everything is just you're a human, and just empathetically and speaking from myself, like it becomes the worst. And if it's the worst for you, even if you love it, if you're so burnt out that you can't love what you do anymore, and if you lose that spark, that's the beginning of the end for your business, because people need you to be the shining light of what meaning is. So that again, it's all, can you get it back to the mission and the heart of what you do? And I think if you want to make it super straightforward, yeah, build training. How do we make coffee? What are our recipes in general? What do we do every single time? We have a thing called 7 steps to service. That's one of the simplest things I could talk about. And we talk about 7 things at the register every single time. There's a little bit of space for some malleability and ad-libbing, but it's like these 7 things are happening at the register every time. And it paints a picture of what we do. It's an expectation. It's not robotic. It's not meant to be. It's just hit these things, It will keep the flow going. It's something they do. The people will expect it. If they ask questions, great. Honor them. And then other things, look them in the eye, say thank you, smile, please. We'll take care of you over here. Uh, I don't want to minimize it, but some of these things are just like common courtesy things as well. And at the same time, I can't minimize it because I go into so many shops and I don't even get it. So, common courtesy goes a long, long way.
Yeah. On the flip side of that coin, right? So, what are some of the things while you're training your people, while you're creating this mods or this environment for them? What's something that you found difficult for you to train or for people to grasp? What's been those
Yeah.
challenging pieces?
So this one I think is for me has been the most challenging, and it is working through the imposter syndrome and standing behind the things that you believe will work specifically and most specifically around systems and training. Here's what I mean. We ultimately end up using 95% of the things that I've written to the Z, like almost exactly. But for so many years along the way, as I would pass off things to leadership, there's this challenge of I want them to express themselves and make a dent on the company. And there's not always a match in terms of tenure and experience that can lead to the educated decisions of the outcome. Right. So, meaning it's like, I want to do it this way and I'm really passionate about it. And occasionally I've gone back on what I knew it was right to allow them to try something. But if you are stepping into a place where you're putting new leaders in your stead, that's the beginning of a tangent. And to work your way back if those leaders move on, or to work your way back after systems get established under new leadership takes a lot of work. So I would say it's your baby. If you came up with it and you believe in it and it's working and there's connection to it and something's going on, be really confident in setting up those systems. Spend the time on working up on those systems and the trainings and how we do things, and be okay being like, I understand that you don't all understand this quite yet. I'm also working through making it. Trust me through the process. Let's see it through and try it for a while, and then let's work together to tweak it. And this is where I made mistakes is, and I might be different than a lot of business owners. I think more business owners lean to less trust versus more trust, but I went with more trust and I'd say, hey, come with me. Let's build this together. Here's a picture. And you just kind of assume it's going to go a certain direction. That would be to me, like there is that fine line of involving somebody and also standing behind the things that you know are absolutely like the non-starters in your company. That's so powerful. And here's the truth. This is, I think, important for everybody to know. When you can include people, right? If they get to help you make something, they will feel 10 times more pride in it. And that's powerful and that's understandable. And that's actually like a huge goal if you want to grow and establish, especially in new things. So there is a place for that, but I would write things and I'd be like, these are great. And you just have to remember that people haven't spent as much time with your concepts and your ideas as you have. So you have to give them the space and you have to be empathetic to them to catch up to you. You're already at like X to Y to Z and they're like at B. And so you can't expect them to see everything that you see. And you have to have that mix of patience and you have to have that confidence to not get knocked off the horse by people who are awesome and amazing and worthy, but just not quite there yet.
Yeah, that's actually very true, Jared, because you're right. There's a knowledge gap, or at least there is a understanding gap, so to speak. Because as an owner, you have these things come to you instinctually, but for your people, it's difficult because they are not there yet. They are not living in your brain. They are not living in your heart. So they want to see it in action before they can feel comfortable and then bring themselves. On that
Hmm.
note, I also know that you speak to a lot of emerging coffee shop owners and advise them, coach them up to become better leaders. So, on this topic itself, right? Imagine someone who's 2 years, 3 years into their coffee shop business. Now they are listening to you and they're like, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. Today I'm inspired, and tomorrow I want to go in and do all these things. How would you break it down for them? Like, if you were in their shoes, how would you listen to Jared Truby and then do the thing that you just shared?
Right.
One, two, three things that they will do as owners.
Yeah. Okay. There's a couple things. You have to know what's going to burn you out before you get started as best you can. And if you don't know, you're going to find out quickly. So what that means, I naturally can't help but look at everything in my company and say, This is how it works. This is how it connects to all the people. This is how the guests use it. Is that the best it is? Is there something being wasted? Is somebody having a hard time with it? Like, that's just how my crazy brain works. Some people hear what I just said and they're like, that sounds like a nightmare. So there's going to have to be an understanding of who you are and what you love to lean into and what parts that have to be done by you and what parts could you find somebody to share the load in and do less of. It's okay to lead, like I said, by being directive and clear about what needs to happen, the outcomes, like to be able to have the vision of this is what I want to look like and feel like. You don't have to do it all. And if you try to do it all, you'll find the parts that are the most challenging. And as a young business owner and a new business owner, you might have to do everything. So there's that. The second part would be try to take everything. And I know this sounds so rudimentary, but here's where I think it's different and break it down into simple bite-sized chunks in a team though. So you are, call me, and say I own the business, a business by myself, and I had a picture of everything that wanted to get done and I can't get it done. You bring everybody together and you say, hey, here are all of the line items. You kind of list them off, whatever it needs to look like. You can make an example. Outside needs to have, we'll say, flowers, clean tables, chairs. I want it to look like this. And we have a landscaper here. And I would like coffee. I'd like these many coffees, this many recipes, so on and so forth. And I want the guest experience. You can go down the line, like really clarify it. Then you can say, okay, team, we're going to work on this thing this week. You're going to take just a small snippet. We'll say, I don't have an official espresso recipe. We'll make that as the example. We don't have an official espresso recipe for a milk espresso. I need somebody to make that. So between today and tomorrow, person X, I'm going to have you work on espresso. I'd like you to come up with 2 recipes for tomorrow to taste and why you like them. That's all we're going to do. That's success. Today, tomorrow, that's what you're going to do. And person number 2, I want you to make sure that you write out a closing checklist and an opening checklist. What you think needs to get done, A plus B equals C. I'm going to work on the amount of potential tickets we would like to get done, some of the business stuff, but I'm just going to bring the very next thing tomorrow. We're all going to bring these things tomorrow. We're going to talk about them. And then that's what you do, just one day at a time. And it's just like, great. Now you got the espresso recipe done. Let's taste it. Do we like it together? Great. Okay. Approved. What's next? Okay. What does bar flow look like in making all of these drinks? And then you find the person who's most suited in that next part. And it's just the next day between today and tomorrow. Come up with some ideas that you think would help us with bar flow. Are we going to put our tickets here, put them there? Are we going to prep milk drinks? Are we going to batch drinks? Are we going to put 2 drinks together in one? Can we do that? Do we need to train on that? Like instead of all of that, just give me one concept around this. And you just keep knocking it off a little bit at a time. And that is your snowball to your snow person. I'd say that might be the most impactful and powerful thing you can do is the picture of the whole picture as an owner and being able to share and help people to break it down in the most small chunks, just day by day, and check back in with you. And then again, you're having them help you build such a thing. I mean, those 2 things, being clear, being able to paint that picture, know yourself. Knowing yourself is so, so, so key, and include the people by making everything as bite-sized as possible because the list is endless and things will come up too. That's what's great, right? So, we're say you're in the midst of a great week and the espresso machine breaks. It's like, okay, the espresso machine broke. Between today and tomorrow or today and the next 5 hours, like this needs to get fixed. We need to figure out something. I can't get a hold of somebody to fix it. Great. Do we know anybody who we can borrow an espresso machine from? Or is there a rental company in town? Like we have to keep serving coffee. We don't just stop. What can we do? And it's never, there's nothing to do. There's always we can do something. And that something can be just a step in the right direction. And I'd say the psychological thing that's on the other side of that is I did something and I did my best today. It's not I did everything. And I'd say that that's huge for business owners is we see everything and then we can go fetal because it's so scary and so intense and you don't know how to get through it. If you can find a way to just be like one small step on the most important thing every day, that's good enough. And hopefully you can do more. But if that's good enough, your life starts to change. And I want I want that feeling for myself and everybody else.
That's Jared, that's powerful. I might, just print a T-shirt with that quote. Do what's next. That's what you just did. Just do what's next. Love that. Very powerful. So true. Jared, on that note, I'm thinking about the state of coffee. this year, 2026, right? And it's been what, 10 years? Congratulations, by the way. It's been 10 years for Cat and Cloud.
Thank you.
Started in 2015, 2016, right?
It'll be, yeah, this September.
September, 2016 when we started. So that was a different time altogether in terms of the
Mhm.
coffee industry, people, owners. The entire world was very different. Tell me about today. What do you see about in your words? If you were to talk about state of coffee, entrepreneurship, how would you describe it?
I'd say that there is un I'm gonna say this, and I think it's true regardless of how it sounds, and I don't necessarily think it's bad either. But there are less people wanting to work in specialty coffee who care about specialty coffee like they did in 2015. And that is weird because and I think the reason is counterintuitive. All of the technology makes it feel like you're amazing at something when you're an operator versus an actual artist. Totally cool. But there is a truth to when you feel like you earned something and you feel like you're valuable and you made a difference and you did something, that you step into it more. Like the challenge and rising to the challenge is powerful. And the culture across the board is actually built to want less challenge and more ease thanks to technology and social media. So you have this paradox in people where what they what they need and want is to be challenged appropriately and to be shown that they are valuable as they move through that challenge while being like, I don't want to do that. That's hard. And I don't think it's anybody who genuinely feels that way in a negative way. It's just the way the world has worked is I can get everything easy. Especially coffee is easier to get, but not easier to get at the highest level. That's still a win for specialty coffee. So I don't want you to mishear me, but there is like the mountaintop that I'm on all the time is you and this work are so valuable. Do not devalue yourself as you come in here. Do not devalue the growth that's happening. Don't miss it that you're practicing this thing from the intro level. You are getting a case study in human beings right in front of you. You get this dynamic of talking to the richest and the lower class oftentimes because these people all come to spend this is their expensive treat. It's coffee sometimes. So you get this opportunity to learn and to socialize and to grow and just I don't want people to miss that. And I do think that it's pretty easy for people these days to miss out on understanding that that's part of what this is and it's really really beneficial and all of these skills translate into life in the future into organization into things like that. So let alone it being more expensive across the board everywhere, green coffee, operating costs, everything is more challenging. So that has all changed. What has not changed is that people still want to feel connected. People still want to feel valuable, and people more than ever need to be reminded about what it feels like to get back into their body and get present and to experience something with another versus our digital assets. And we absolutely have one of the highest callings in the world when you think about that, because we get to be neutral ground where people can come in and feel like they are with other and they're not getting, it's not in the context of drinking alcohol or, partying. It's in the context often of studying social connection and those things that are the things that we need more than ever, which is to come together. So, while there is a lot of I'd say monetary challenge, and there could be a lot of challenge in terms of convincing other. Sometimes you don't always have to convince them if you can get some people together and just do it. And then they're like, whoa, it feels different in here. What's up? I want to go back there. That felt good. And then they tell their friends. You don't have to always beat them over the head, but it's a very different place than it was when I started. So we started in a world where there weren't very many specialty coffee shops at the time. It was a small world. Now it's a very large world, and that's great for so many. And it's great for opportunity. We have a great option and opportunity, and that's where we're at. So that's the landscape. It's completely different, and it's still a business. There's still A plus B equals C, and then people are still people. So in some ways, nothing's changed, And that's weird to say. It's just we got to study people. We have to pay attention to what's going on. Evolution will happen. It is what it is, and we have to be able to grow with it, or else we will fall behind. And that's just not who I'm going to be.
Well said. People are people ultimately. There's no business that comes close to people-oriented business like coffee. One thing that you alluded to was, things are different in Australia, New Zealand, for example, the size of team, the way they do things. What do you see, again, speaking on the topic of state of coffee in the world today, the US versus outside the US, how do you see it differently, both from the eyes of an owner and also from the eyes of the consumer? What differences are you seeing, if any?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I only can personally speak, to in terms of consumer culture, right? New Zealand and Australia. Those are the places I've seen outside of our country that I would say have consumer culture, right? I've been to Honduras many, many times. They have cafes, they're great, but I don't think while there's totally the same, they're very much community hubs in Honduras, and it's awesome, and it is literally go there, meet people, have some coffee. Like it is the place to go. In New Zealand and Australia, it's about that like the craft itself and the precision and the execution and being able to showcase something unique like milk blends and very specific espresso and knowing your recipes and your details and all of these things kind of, like in a way how you might in a barista competition to some degree, that is expected. And
Hmm.
so to get a coffee and be like, this is a coffee that we made like this and roasted like that, and we pulled it like this at this temperature, and this is the milk we used, and it's it ends up being like a cappuccino or a flat white. That is to be expected. Difference over there, generally, latte art's not as important at all. It's more about like the drink and the flavor, quality, but not, like a standard monk's head, all good. Over here, in the context of our consumers, and actually, I don't know, we have a huge population, density comparison to Australia and New Zealand for sure. Like we have way more people, but I mean, the people as a whole and a percentage, they don't care as much about that stuff. I wish they did. And we have to take steps and chip away at that, but they don't care as much about farmers and elevation and how you prepared it. People do. But if you wanted to get real about the number, it's not nearly as high as I wish it was. It's higher than it used to be. And that's the challenge is you have to find a way to bring in guests and then over time find a way to express those things that are really like those passion points. And that's challenging. I will absolutely like empathize with anybody. I feel it, but you also have to be successful. So you have to find ways to kind of bridge that gap. And that's what we do often. And we serve amazing coffee. And I would just say that like the way our coffee, every coffee we buy, I love. 10 to 20% of the coffees we buy are the way I roast, how I would ideally like to roast them and serve them for people that are nerds like myself. And if I did only coffees that I want for everybody, I would have 20 employees and not 20 team members and not 105. And I want to make an impact on people and communities. Again, 20% of the amount of people who come through 4 cafes is a better number than 20% of people who come through one. So it's still exponential, it's still growth, it's still in the right direction, but we got to be honest with ourselves and we have to grow and support ourselves in these businesses. And it doesn't mean we can't do what we want. It just does means that we can't only do what we want. And that's, I guess, a life lesson because that's also how life is too. And I wish it wasn't, but it's so real.
Well, speaking of life lesson, as we wrap up the session, what is one piece of advice that you'd like to share with an emerging coffee shop owner listening to you right now?
Whatever place or person or thing that inspired you, that made you go, I want to do this, really look at what it was. Try to really break it down. Break it down into the not only like the 5 senses you'd experience as a person, like literally identify them, but break down if that experience was shared or if that was personal, right? I think we need to be able to look at these things and be like, I loved that. Another example would be like going to a 3 Michelin star meal that is seafood specific, but you don't love seafood. And you go there and, or actually you bring somebody who doesn't like seafood, but you love seafood. And you're there and you're all, this is the best thing I ever had. And right next to you, somebody's like, dude, I don't get this. And I spent $500 on it. That was the biggest waste of my time ever. It looked pretty. I hated it. So you need to just look at what you loved about it, identify all of those things, and then start looking at where are these things able to be the most connective? Explore, talk to other people who you maybe are going to be serving or another people, just people that you trust or people that are maybe just a little bit outside your wheelhouse that challenge you and be like, hey, here's the stuff I want to do. Here's what I love. Here's what I'm looking to explore. And just start to gather that feedback And then you can find that true, like authentic North Star of these are the things that I really want to deliver. This is how they did it. Here's my take on it, and here's why I want to be in this industry, in this business. Because you really have to want to be here, and you really have to want to be an entrepreneur. And more so than that, you have to want to do it for something other than the paycheck, because you can get a paycheck doing a lot of work. If you want to have a cafe, you have to have, or if you want to have a business, anything, you have to have a reason for it beyond the monetary. And that reason is the thing that's going to sustain you. So what was it that brought you to life, and whatever thing made you go, I'm making a cafe? And hopefully, that thing is like the fire that keeps you going, because it's not going to be chill. It could absolutely be worth it and absolutely valuable, but it will be more growth and challenge than it will be ease.
Heaven and hell at the same time. That's life. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you have to have a reason. It cannot be for the paycheck. And that's not to say that you shouldn't go out there and it shouldn't also get you a paycheck. It's just when you're working for money, that's a job. When you're working for a passion, that's a vision. And a vision is what brings people together. They don't care that you serve something they make money on, and they'll feel that that's why you're there, you know? So you got to be tied to something that's deeper than money and even power and the ability to be like an influence in a community. It has to be deeper than that. It has to be really connective and meaningful and valuable, or you won't get fed. And I can't tell you too specifically, but I can tell you that that's 1000% true, because it's gonna be different for your world. I know that by way of time and tenure now.
Yeah. Very well said. Jared. I have no words right now, and I don't want to just stop. I just want to keep listening to you and hearing all the life lessons that you're sharing.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Oh, actually, on that note, how do people reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's Jared Truby on Instagram. I mean, I have a website. I have started to kind of start writing and sharing a little bit. And you could totally email me, jared@catandcloud.com, if you wanted to potentially talk, or I do want to help people in many different ways. I kind of feel like I did become a Swiss Army knife in some regard, but I am able to focus on systems really well. I've built a ton of them. And so I'm out there, and I feel alive when I feel like I'm in community, and I feel like I'm helpful, and I feel like I'm helping people to better themselves and to either find themselves or find better versions of their work. And yeah, I'll also totally nerd out on coffee with you as deeply as you want, and find whatever middle ground. But those are the places to find me. I only have an email. I only have an IG. Cat and Cloud is the company that I work with, Chris and Charles. They're amazing. We have a great leadership team. If you're ever in the Santa Cruz area, please come get a coffee. Say hi to our amazing team. They're great, and we work together to make something special that's better than the sum of anything that I could do. I'm just happy that I have ideas that matter.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Jared Truby for you. Thank you, Jared. Thanks for the time. And
No,
thanks.
thank you. All good. We can do it again sometime.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
That's it for this episode of Inside the Grind. If something here helped, make sure to subscribe and pass it to another coffee shop or a friend. We all need each other more than we admit. To learn more or join the community, head to coffeefutures.fun. This movement is just getting started. Until next time, keep growing. Your shop matters more than you know.